Is there pressure on Dan Lanning and the staff to get a win in Lubbock this week? I don't think any more than a normal football game, but I think they'll get it done. Here we go.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. So if you have not already, like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, please and thank you wherever you listen to or watch this show as we push closer to 3,500 on YouTube. Appreciate that. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Lots to get to on the show today. Why I think Oregon wins coming a little bit later. But I was thinking about this. So Oregon is a favorite in this game by about 6.5 points, depending on which sports book you look at. But we here at the Locked On Network use FanDuel. They're a great sponsor. We appreciate them. 6.5 points is where they have the line last I checked as I record this show. I think that's about right. I think it's also telling that even though Texas Tech maybe isn't quite as strong as we thought they were coming into 2023, talked about that, had a great episode with Chris Level of the Locked On Texas Tech podcast and of the Red Raiders radio network. Check out that episode yesterday if you did not. That gets you all the Texas Tech info that you need to know going into this game. But got me thinking, is there pressure on Oregon to win this game? Like, let's just say, hypothetically, I don't think this happens, but I recognize it's a possibility, which is apparently a controversial way to go through life, as I'll get to a little bit later in the show. If Oregon were to lose this game, does that create angst? Does that create disappointment? Does that create frustration to the level where going into it we'd say, oh, there's pressure on Dan Lanning and company to win this game? I don't think any more than a normal Pac-12 college football game against a quality opponent on the road. I would liken it to probably the Washington State game from last year. If Dan Lanning and Oregon had lost that game, which they should have, by the way, like let's call a spade a spade. Oregon should have lost to Washington State last year. They didn't. They found a way to win, which was great. Kept the winning streak alive, got it up to 8 games. We know how it ended, but we're off to write a new chapter in the story of Dan Lanning as our head coach in 2023. If we'd lost that game last year, would you have felt that the sky was falling? No. I predicted Oregon to win that game. I thought they would do it more comfortably than they did, but I thought they would win that game on the road. But if they'd lost that game, it wouldn't be viewed as a disaster. I wouldn't have looked at it and said, how could you possibly lose that game? What are you doing here? No. That's reserved for like 2021 at Stanford, who ended up being a 3-9 football team. That's a game where you go, how on earth did you possibly lose that football game? And the other thing when talking about, what to think going into this game and how to kind of view the matchup and, what comes of it and everything like that, you have to think about what team you are going against and also where you are playing them. This is going to be a hostile environment, much like Pullman. This is going to be a good but not great football team with a capable quarterback, much like Pullman last year. The more I flesh out this thought, the more I think it's a really, really good comparison. So that then brings us to, okay, If it's not a game where you lose and you'd say, oh my gosh, is Dan Lanning not the coach we thought he was? Is everything a mess? First of all, I need to see how that game actually looks if Oregon loses, which I don't think will happen. But also, no. I don't think it would be a sky is falling, disastrous, like pressure's on, you got to win this game, you have to do this or anything like that. They should win the football game. It will be disappointing if we lose, but we don't start to ask big questions. Yeah, that kind of question, if Oregon loses this game. It's not anything like that. But I do think Oregon ends up getting it done. And I don't think there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the team per se, right? Your college football playoff hopes are certainly on the line. I didn't expect Oregon to get to the playoff coming into this season. So If they lose this game, and I know they won't go unbeaten, Pac-12 play, you'd have to win 10 consecutive games against Power 5 Pac-12 opponents in a stacked Pac-12 league. I don't see that happening. Then yeah, Oregon wouldn't make the playoff this year. That would be mildly disappointing, but not so upsetting that I would just be completely dejected, upset, and frustrated for the rest of the season, because I don't think they're getting to the playoff. Can they get to the Pac-12 championship game? Should they get there? Yes. Can they win it? We'll see how they're playing at the time and who they are matched up with. But it's one of the reasons I don't like picking preseason conference champions is, at least on this kind of show, I don't know how teams are going to be playing going into the game. I don't know how they're going to look after the course of the season. Like, a lot changes between now and the end of the season. That's just a quick sidebar. But going into this matchup with Texas Tech, I like the Ducks. Why? Because I love our offense. That is the biggest reason why. I have questions about the defense, though I am excited about the opportunity for the defense to take a step forward. Reminds me of a scene from The Martian where they're talking about sending Mark Watney into space under a tarp, basically. And they're saying, we've never had an unmanned craft or a remotely piloted craft sent into space without the front of the ship. And then Vincent Kapoor grins and bears it and goes, it's one of my favorite movies ever, by the way. He goes, but I am excited about the opportunity that affords. Something to that effect. Anyway, I am excited about the opportunity to see us play an offense that has Power 5 weapons that we can match up with. That if Oregon goes in and delivers a dominant defensive outing, we say, okay, we've made sizable strides here and we see the progress. We see the results that we've talked about for months and months on paper materializing on the field. I'm excited to see what we bring on that side of the football. But make no mistake about it, my confidence in the Ducks winning this game is rooted in the offense. I liked what I saw from the offensive line in week 1. It wasn't a huge test, but I also know that as long as Jackson Powers Johnson can snap the ball, he's a really good blocker on the interior of the offensive line. So I have not a lot of questions, a couple, but not a lot of questions about how he performs there. Josh Conerly has looked like a beast since he took the field in spring football, and frankly, dating back to last year when he was a part of the jumbo package. Josh Conerly is a guy that I think can be, one day, a first-round NFL talent. He has to grow into that, and this could be a step in that direction, but he has that sort of athletic profile. Marcus Harper at left guard. I know exactly what I have there. A really good pass blocker, an average, probably run blocker, but a guy who started a lot of games on an offensive line that was among the best in college football, in all of college football, a season ago. Stephen Jones has been here for 6 years. I think he's as old as I am, for goodness sakes. And everybody wanted a Johnny Cornelius out of the portal for a reason. Is cohesion a part of it? Sure, it is. But that's a pretty minor question. That is a high-class problem to have offensively. Well, we have some experience and talent and depth on the offensive line that just don't quite have the chemistry yet. Well, what other questions do you have about the offense? Oh, nothing. Literally not a single solitary thing. Oh, okay. First world problems when you're talking about offensive question marks. So that's part of the reason I think that they are going to get it done. My score prediction is 34-23. Spencer, why? Why do you have such an odd number? Why do you have strange things there? Well, I will tell you why I feel that way. I feel as strongly about that as I do about Nutrafol, because that's a product that can help you regrow your hair. You should not have to choose between your health and better hair growth. You just shouldn't have to. For any of my bald brothers out there, I am not actually bald, but sometimes I kind of look at Buzzcut, Team Buzzcut for the win. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just better hair. A lot of men think losing their hair is inevitable. It's not. Take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men. And it works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol men's hair growth supplements. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men. Enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege college. Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get your next order today. We're rolling along, and I had to place my next order for a second segment sip. Delivered. Off we go. 34-23. What does that mean? That Oregon is either missing an extra point or kicking several field goals. Now, I hope that Oregon is willing to kick field goals in this game. I've been a proponent of this particular philosophy dating back to last year, and frankly for the last several years as I've graduated college and, had the time and space to think about these sorts of tiny detailed thoughts that you all choose to care about and which I am grateful for. When you are on the road, if you drive the ball down the field and you are stopped on third down and you are within a highly makeable field goal range, take the points. I am more willing to hear the argument for, go for it when you're at home because you got the crowd behind you. But this is going to be a hostile environment. That's what it's going to be. You're going to have fans who are going to show up for this game. I have no idea if they'll sell out the stadium, but guess what? Anybody who's there, that is going to be a rabid fan base. They're going to be loud. They're going to be crazy. If you move the ball down the field, you got to walk away with points because the deflation level, if you march down the field and come away completely empty-handed, is intensified probably 3 times when you have a road crowd like the one I expect Texas Tech to send to Lubbock on Saturday afternoon/evening. So that's why I think field goals will be taken in the game. That's just, 2 for the Ducks, of course. 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals. I think they'll be in that sort of range. Texas Tech, on the other hand, employs an air raid system. Now, I'm curious to see how Tosh Lupoy and Dan Lanning want to attack the air raid because there are a couple different philosophies when defending it. What Wyoming did a lot of last week was rush 3 and drop 8 into coverage. That technique, by the way, pretty darn successful. 20 points and a bunch of field goal tries over the first 4 quarters, and then they, of course, got to overtime, and things are different there. But that is something that we've seen the Ducks do in the past. Now, granted, it's a different staff. When going against an air raid is don't rush a lot of guys, drop 8 into coverage, and make them take the underneath stuff. Just go underneath, and then come up and make a tackle. I think we will see a decent amount of that. I don't know about exclusively. I don't know about as much as, we used to see when we played those Mike Leach Washington State teams, but I think that's a reason that there are going to be field goals in this game is you're going to have a lot of stuff underneath, and Oregon will be determined to not let Texas Tech beat us over the top. Because when you're throwing the football all the time in an air raid, that's what it's designed to do. Is, you start off in coverage, take a bunch of underneath stuff, take it, and then you just come closer, you come up, boom, they beat you for a double move and they get a touchdown. That's what, that's part of the air raid offensive philosophy. So hopefully Oregon's disciplined to not allow the big plays. Make Texas Tech work hard. Make Texas Tech beat you and beat your corners and truly put them in a situation where you feel like they can succeed because you brought these guys in for a reason, right? You brought these guys in because you thought they fit your scheme because they're talented enough to allow you to play defense at a high level. At some point, you got to test them. But I expect to see a decent amount of, just give them the underneath stuff, come up, make the tackles, have them make a mistake, capitalize on it, get off the field on third down. Goodness gracious, please, pretty please, get off the field on third down and 6 or more. That's the number one thing that I would love to see. Another reason that I think the Ducks win and cover that 6.5 point spread there, again, 34-23, my final score prediction for tomorrow in Lubbock is I have heard more than one person who covers Texas Tech ask questions about the offensive line. And look, I have questions about Oregon's defensive line because we don't really know what we have there yet, but it's better on paper. And Brandon Dorlus, we know, that's the only guy we really know can be a game wrecker. Casey Rogers can as well, a little bit more in the run game for Rogers, whereas Dorlus can do it in a variety of facets. If you have questions about your offensive line, I think that is time for Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy to just lick their chops and say, go to work. Jordan Burch, Brandon Dorlus, Mateo Uyunglele, Mace Funa, Casey Rogers, Taki Time, everybody, go to work. And seeing as how that's the biggest question that I have about Oregon's defense going into this game, if you're telling me that's not going to be a strength, I heard one Texas Tech guy say that their right tackle has been an outright issue. It's been a problem, and that the offensive line in general wasn't as good as they would have liked it to have been last week. So if that's the case, and the question I have about Oregon's defense is playing against what is declared as, one of the weaknesses of the Texas Tech offense, that's one of the reasons I feel good about the Ducks here. But, for an offense with a capable quarterback in Tyler Shough, some good weapons across the board, Dre McCray's got a lot of speed on the perimeter there. Anything under 27 points, I think, is a good defensive showing on the road. And if Oregon can do that, I think they'll be able to score against Texas Tech. A couple things here. First of all, there is a new feature here at Locked On Ducks that all state first is not a requirement, but is certainly an option available to any and all of you out there. Perhaps some everydayers would be interested. It is known as Subtext. It is something that's fairly new to me as well, but is something that we are bringing to you as people who listen to or watch the show at the Locked On Network. The link to join the Subtext, which has a 14-day free trial and then a paid subscription after the fact, is in the YouTube description if you're watching, or in the podcast description wherever you're listening to the show right now. What does that get you? An ability to chat with me one-on-one. It's basically a way for you to send me messages directly. I send them directly back to you, kind of like texting me. That's basically what it allows you to do. The big the big aspect here that the Subtext can get you if you go over there and subscribe, it's just $5 a month, is priority mailbag questions. So right now, I take mailbag questions via YouTube comments or on Twitter, and I answer them in the order that, kind of best fits with the show. But if you are a Subtext subscriber and you want a question answered on the show, you send me one in there and you say, hey, I have this question or whatnot, that will be a priority question in terms of when I answer it on the show. You might not have to wait as long to get a question answered. Now, to make this clear, this subscription is available to everybody and anybody who wants it. I'll have my live post-game reaction thoughts when I'm not doing a broadcast for Southern Utah in there. You can get my thoughts quickly there. I can share, random thoughts throughout the day as well. Send a couple messages and such, things I'm hearing and all that sort of stuff to enhance your coverage of the Ducks and for me to share with you every waking thought and minute that I have. But you can also talk to me. That's the best part about it, really, is we can have some one-on-one conversation on there. However, if that doesn't interest you, guess what? It's not a requirement. It's just an option that is available. The show will continue to be provided wherever you're listening to or watch it right now, free of charge. Everything else is normal. You can still ask me questions the old-fashioned way. That option is there. If you have any questions about it, by all means, hit me up on Twitter, which some people have been doing recently. Apparently, I'm very negative. Very, very negative. My last two, this is just, poking fun at a select few people on the Twitter sphere, which I will always refer to it as. Like, it's not X, I'm sorry, it's Twitter. But they have decided that I am overly negative about the Ducks. The last two record predictions I've done for Oregon going into the season, which would be the only two since taking over as the host of the show, I've predicted them to go a combined 20-4. Apparently, that makes me a naysayer. I also think they win and cover on the road against a Power 5 opponent this week. So I guess those people are looking for Oregon's winning the national championship by 30 this year, I suppose. Is that what I'm supposed to say? I bring this up just to point out that I always come on here and give you my unfiltered thoughts, and that's the way it's always going to be. End of discussion. Okay, let's talk about some important players for the Ducks, because I think you have a number of guys that have to do well. Yeah, of course. There's Bo Nix, right? He's got to play well. Jax Powers-Johnson and Josh Connerly, your two most important offensive linemen. Yeah, they have to be really, really good too. But who else do we really need to step up in a big way? I've got a combo of players, one offensive player, and one defensive player who I cannot name. Let's start with the combo of defensive players. Jordan Burch, Brandon Dorles. Talked earlier about the Texas Tech offensive line, relative weakness for the Red Raiders compared to other aspects of their team. If you're going to disrupt an air raid offense that doesn't, run the football at a highly efficient clip, they ran for, I think it was less than 3 yards a carry last week against Wyoming. They did not run the football effectively. You know how you disrupt an air raid offense? You pressure the quarterback. Get him off his spot, make him uncomfortable, make him hurry up that internal clock that he has. Don't allow him to go through 3 and 4 progressions on a passing concept. So I think Brandon Dorlus and Jordan Burch, who should be Oregon's 2 best defensive linemen, and I think sack leaders for 2023, I think those guys are important. They're far from the only ones that matter. But what matters for you is that you go check out Gametime if you want to get tickets to whatever event, this one or any other. Buying tickets to your favorite events, it just shouldn't be stressful, guys. It really, really shouldn't. And Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, anything that you want. Gametime has got it. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. It can be a stressful ordeal. I mean, this whole ordeal, like Taylor Swift tickets and waiting in line and everything like that, whatever event you want to go to this year, be it an Oregon football game or otherwise, Gametime is the way to go. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Absolutely. Okie dokie. So, who else matters? Offensively, I'm going outside the box here, and I'm going to say Terrence Ferguson. The receivers for Oregon are going to carry a lot of attention. They're going to attract a lot of attention is the better way to phrase that. I think Terrence Ferguson is a guy who can really be a safety blanket and can also be someone who picks up a first down when you didn't expect him to. He can shed a tackle, get a guy off of him, and on 3rd and 6, he catches the ball at 3 yards, gets away from a DB, makes a first down. And that can help not just Bo Nix, but the rest of the offense kind of settle in. I'd look for him to have a 3rd down catch early in this game. I'll say in the first quarter. I'll make that one of my random predictions that I just came up with. That hasn't been a recurring segment. I just decided to do it off the top of my head because, heck, hey, why not? I think Terrence Ferguson converts a 3rd down in the first quarter in this game. If that happens, just know I'm going to be so obnoxious on the Saturday reaction pod, which is going to happen, by the way. So that's the other guy that matters. Here's the one that I can't name because I don't have a great feel, given what we saw in week 1 against Portland State, for how the rotations went. I look at what Oregon had in the secondary last week and how many different guys saw on the field, and I don't know who the leader is. I don't know who the standout is. Triquez is the most experienced, along with maybe Dante Manning. Kyrie Jackson they brought in, I think, to be a starter. Nico Reed, I thought, looked pretty good in week 1. Evan Williams is the most highly coveted transfer they brought in this offseason. Brian Addison's your highest graded returner on PFF. Tysheem Johnson had an excellent week 1, and I think has been a standout really since spring football. Do you see where I'm going with this? Who's the leader on the back end? You go to a great Oregon defense with a great secondary, I can tell you who the leader is. Like 2010 teams, John Boyette. 2019, last great Oregon defense we had. On the back end of the defense, Javon Holland. Absolutely. Like that's your leader. That's your dog. Thomas Graham was also a dog in that unit. Like, I don't know who's going to emerge. If I had to pick one, I would honestly say Brian Addison or Tysheem Johnson. But I don't have a great sense of that. So I'm looking for one guy to step up, to be your go-to playmaker, to be a bona fide stud, to be a guy who's a leader on the back end of the defense. I think you would look towards the safeties, but I really think it can be anybody. I mean, last year, I think it's something Oregon was kind of missing. Like, Gonzo was a really, really talented player. I don't know if he ever felt like the vocal leader back there all the time. Sometimes, perhaps, just based on what we saw. But who's that going to be? So, names to watch. T-Ferg on offense. Jordan Burch, Brandon Dorlus, whose names I've come this close to crossing up into Jordan Dorlus and Brandon Burch, because Brandon Burch sounds good, doesn't it, right? And then whoever emerges from the secondary. Hopefully we can get an interception or two of our old pal Tyler Shough. All right, so that's just about everything. Oh, wait, no, it's not everything. No, there's something that I saw that I'm really excited to see. because this is a primetime game, 7 o'clock Eastern on Fox. I hope we have Jason Benetti on the call with Brock Heward. I don't know who they're sending out there. I did not see, but this is going to be an elite uniform matchup. So Oregon's busting out the chrome helmets, the white jerseys, the white pants, the green numbers. I tell you, it looks fresh. It looks clean. It looks good. I'm here for it. Texas Tech, meanwhile, once I saw Oregon's uniform reveal, I looked at Texas Tech in my head and said, you guys better wear red. I want to see red jerseys and red pants against the white jerseys, white pants with green numbers. And that's what we're getting. This is going to be an elite, freaking elite uniform matchup. I think it's going to look awesome. Awesome on TV, and hopefully the Ducks look fast and furious playing in those jerseys come Saturday night in Lubbock. This leads me to a fun question to wrap up this week's shows. Again, there will be a reaction show. Watch for that. Follow me on Twitter at smalls_55 or subscribe on YouTube. And I'll be going live sometime after to react to whatever happens in the Texas Tech game, which I think will be good things. I got a 34-23 win. This question came in from Apollo, who wanted me to rank my top 5 uniforms ever. Now, I've done something similar to this before, but I'm trying to keep this as consistent as I can. I don't know that I could put these in an order, but these are the 5 that I like the most, and I love the ones we have coming this Saturday. I think they're going to look great. They look a lot like Arizona State 2017, Willie Taggart era. Anyway, thought they looked good then. I'm sure they'll look good tomorrow against the Texas Tech Red. Chef's kiss. Top 5. First of all, I do have a number 1 favorite, the all-white Stormtrooper look, circa 2010. Wings on the shoulder pads. Man, I tell you, I love me in all-white. I am here for that in a jersey combo. 2015 Rose Bowl, the all-apple green. Loved those. The OG wings on the shoulder pads. There were a lot of different combinations I liked, the all white as well, but I thought the black with the silver wings had some really cool concepts. They worked yellow into it well, the green, like a lot of good answers there, but just the different combinations of wings on the shoulder pads, loved those. I thought the Once a Duck uniforms, terrible football season, by the way, 4-8, gross. Once a Duck, I thought looked awesome. I would definitely bring those back. And then the ones that I'm going to lobby on this show until it happens. How are we not doing a throwback every single year, once a year at Autzen Stadium? Give me the 2014 throwbacks that we wore against Washington. I forget which year exactly they were a callback to. Those were so tasty. They were so tasty. We also thumped Washington that day, which made it extra tasty. But those unis, those were crispy clean, like a Krispy Kreme donut. Let's end with that. Who doesn't love donuts? Hope the Ducks get a win this weekend. I might celebrate with a donut. We'll just see. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the game. And as always, go Ducks.